Thank you for joining us for a Java break. This session is all about converting a character user interface application to a modern graphical look in just minutes using the Barista Application Framework. Barista allows you to jumpstart new development efforts of legacy systems, create usable interfaces in just minutes, with full functioning columnar, tabular, and header detail entry forms, as well as inquiries with full search and filter capabilities. Out of the box, you get data listings and basic reporting with the document management. Barista can be used to convert character applications to graphical applications like we're going to be doing, or develop brand new graphical applications, as well as enhancing existing graphical applications. We'll be concentrating on converting an existing character application called the CD Jazz Store. Let's take a brief look at what the employee maintenance form looks like from the CD Jazz Store. The employee maintenance form is simply a BBX program and allows for record navigation, field validation, as well as updating and deleting of records. If we take a brief look at a couple of the BBX programs, we see that the first BBX program sets up our environment as well as the screen itself. The second program is really the meat and potatoes of the maintenance program and handles the entire record navigation as well as field navigation. One thing to notice is that the program uses an I/O list with simply 5 variables, A0 through A4 For convenience, we included the template as a commented out line, which we will also be using later in the session. In our simple environment, we have 5 mkeyed files, and there is an accompanying basis data dictionary that describes 4 of the 5 files. I'll be talking about that in just a jiffy. Let's talk first about the basis data dictionary itself. It's used by thousands of companies around the world and has a backward compatibility for use by legacy applications that are built on basis products. Contains all the information needed to create tables, such as the table name, the path to the files, type of file it is, column names, types, and linked attributes, as well as the key and index information related to the file. It also has additional features that allow for easy creation of definitions. For example, if I have an existing string template definition, then I can simply paste that into the data dictionary editor and have the editor generate the columns for me with their attributes. If I have existing data files with keys, then I can also use the actual data file to create key definitions automatically. Let's take a brief look. In the BBJ Enterprise Manager, in the lower left-hand corner, are a list of the databases that have been configured inside the Enterprise Manager. What we would like to do is we would like to attach to the existing CD Jazz Store data dictionary. We do so by clicking on the anchor button, giving our database a name, and stipulating where the data files and the dictionary files are to be found. Having done that, I now have access to the CDJazz store data dictionary. If we take a look at a list of the tables, we see 4 of the 5 tables listed. Let's go ahead and add the 5th table, the employee table. To do so, we press on the button Create New Table. We give our table a name, a description, and here's where the power of the string template comes into play. Normally I would have to define each column and its attributes one at a time. Through the use of the string template definition, I have the ability of pasting in a string template, pressing OK, and the column definitions for the table will be generated automatically. Now, as we saw briefly, inside of the BBX program that handles the employee maintenance form, we have the template already defined. So I'll make a copy of that, go back to the data dictionary editor, paste it in, say OK, and voila, I have the columns, their types, and their links automatically created for me. Now, one other thing is that our data file is not named the same as our table name. So I have to adjust this. Having done so, I can now take advantage of auto-generation of the key information pertaining to this file. I press on the Generate from Data File button down in the lower right-hand corner. It gives me a small warning, and I see that it used the data file itself and generated the index details for me automatically. Now I'm all set. I just need to save the dictionary changes only because I've made no structural data file changes. OK, the list automatically refreshed, and I can use the built-in SQL browser inside the Enterprise Manager to show that we are actually connected to the data file. And here we are. We have the data of the employee table. So what's the next step? The next step is to actually create an area inside of Barista to hold our project information. We do so by creating an application. In the application creation process, an area, a defined area, named area, is created that holds the project directories and data paths, as well as global variables and other information for use by Barista and the application itself. The create application generates a Barista synchronization file. The synchronization file contains project information, such as the global variables and project directories, as well as company and product IDs, which can then be licensed to protect your intellectual property. It is also the basis for deployment and import of projects and verticals into other Barista installations, as well as re-importing after future Barista releases. Having created an application area, we can then import from the basis data dictionary into the Barista dictionary. This imports existing basis dictionary definitions, uses existing table and column names, allows consolidation on column renaming and element typing. Essentially, I can do a bit of housekeeping here. Definitions are added to the SQL engine for the inquiry system within Barista, and user application menus are automatically generated based on the imported tables. Let's now do these two steps and create an application and then import the tables from our CDJazz application. Go into Barista Development and then Create Application. We give our application a name. CDJazz is convenient. Barista offers some default values, which we'll just take for ease. I can assign different languages in case I'm doing translation. Here's where I assign my product ID I'd like to use. Give it as well a description. Next, we see a list of global variables that are automatically built based on the synchronization file name. We'll just zip through these couple of screens and actually create the application. Now, we don't have any menus, we don't have any tables. We do go through the auto-synchronization process. Upon synchronizing, everything is set then for the import of the table information. Also under Barista development is the import to Barista dictionary. This allows me to import table and column information from an existing basis data dictionary. We select the SYN file that we'd like to have for our import, and then we have to tell Barista where the files for the data dictionary are actually found. In our case, under the cdjazz directory bbdict. Having done so, we can click the Next button. It offers a review of the column information as well as globals that are set up within inside the data dictionary. We do want to change the old global data to our new global cdjazz. And we can just click through the next frames. Here's a list of the tables that are available to be imported. I'll select them all and just press Import. Now the table information and column information is read in, and data elements and tables are built automatically for me. Not only that, I also receive a beginning application menu. I can immediately choose one of the menu items. Barista sees that the form has not yet been built and builds it automatically. This is a full-featured data input form with inquiry capabilities, etc. But we'll come back to that. You get loads of out-of-the-box functionality. Forms are ready to use with just a few clicks, as you saw just previously. Inquiries with full search and filter capabilities. Default data reporting is also immediately available. Additional development and diagnostic tools, for example, if you want to review table layouts. There's also a built-in role-based security system. And the security administration goes down to the field level. You can also set up that access and modification should be logged. A really nice feature is the basis update service. This is integrated with inside Barista and offers the opportunity to receive updates between the major releases from basis. We have business rules that make our application our application. So here we want to address briefly the element definition tuning that you can do for your business rules. Things like key alignment and padding, input-output masking, stipulating table relationships and basic validation. One thing that's real nice is that changes inside of element definitions can be automatically propagated to tables and forms. You also have available the form manager and the form designer for doing very specific control placement, for stipulating form dimensions. There's a lot of additional form and form field options, and you can intervene with Barista's own event model using call points for your more complex rules. Let's take a brief look at the form manager and form designer. Under Barista development, we find the form manager. The form manager lists for us the defined applications, and if we click on our application, the tables listed are filtered to our application. Now what I can do is I can go into any of the tables and see the form in the Form Designer. Here I have a real convenient opportunity to make changes at the data element level as well as form level. If I do a right click on a field, I can go into the element type that has been set up automatically for us during the import process. Now we see here there's no masking. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to add some masking for the input and output of the cost and for the retail. I can also go into the stores table, and we see here these two fields just have yes and no, so it is rather logical that they would turn into a checkbox. So let's go into their element type and change the control type from a standard character edit to a checkbox. We'll do the same thing for the trade CD. In employees, we saw a salaried and houred. Now, what we have here is a situation where we would like to have the code S return for salary and the code H for hourly. And we would like to only have these two available. So we can go directly to the element type and change the control type to a list button. We only want to see the description, and after saving that I can go in and actually define the list that I'd like to have for my list button. One code was hourly, and one code, the S, was salary. Having done that and saved it, I now will receive hourly and salary in my list button. Another thing that we can do is we can set up some validations of element types to tables. Inside of the items table, we have this CD ID. What I would like to do is I'd like to say that when this element type is used in any table, I would like to have it validated against the CDJ items table. And as a convenience, I'd like to have the title appear similar to this description items next to the table name. I'll save that. I don't need to stop there. We also have a relationship. If we take a quick look here, we have items, we have item and store locations. So essentially what the item store location is a very simple table with the CD ID, the store ID, the bin location, and the quantity on hand. What I'd like to build is I'd like to build a header detail relationship between the CDJ items table and the CDJ items store table. To do so, I need to tell Barista that the CDJ items table is the primary table for the CDJ item store table. I do so by going into the maintain table item, and I stipulate that the CDJ items table should be used as the primary table to the CDJ items store. I save that, and then I go into the CDJ items form. This is where I can say I would like to have a detail grid. And because I have this relationship that the items is the primary table, I can choose from a list the item store. Do a refresh, and I see that the grid is displayed in the work area of the Form Designer. Now, one thing that we conventionally do is we don't repeat the CD ID that is already in the header area. So let's close that, save it without doing any kind of rebuilding, go into the item store and say that I would like to have the CD ID. Through the optional definition, I can say I'd like to have it suppressed when it occurs in a maintenance grid. Say OK, save the changes. Now when I go back to my items, it's already taken effect and the CD ID is suppressed within inside the detail grid. Let's go ahead and just build all of the forms, doesn't take any time at all, and see what it looks like. Here's our employee form with the nice list button for salary hourly. The items table, we can already see that the cost and retail are being masked properly. The item store locations is actually not very interesting because within inside the items I have down at the bottom the store information that I need. Sales transactions, we didn't even discuss. But look at what I receive automatically because of the data element. I have the CD ID, the store ID, and links to the actual records. If I click on Live at the IT Club, then I get the item form for Live at the IT Club. Same thing for the store ID. The masking for cost and retail in this table have also taken effect. And our stores table looks great. We have the rent CD and trade CD checkboxes that are changing as I scroll through the records depending on whether a store rents or trades CDs. Now these formatted things are naturally propagated to the inquiries and reporting. Let's go back to our show. What this allows us to do is an incremental migration. Barista allows the coexistence of legacy and newly developed application. Barista, as the user interface, offers either the multiple document interface, called the MDI, where forms are run within the containment of the MDI, as well as legacy Pro5 and Visual Pro5 applications. They can also be bound within inside the containment of the MDI. As an alternative, you can stipulate the single document interface, which means that either the forms run are governed by the Barista MDI, but are allowed to run outside of the MDI, or you can run Barista forms from outside of Barista completely, for example, from your own menu. This way you can migrate on your schedule and swap when you're ready. The first thing we'd like to do is go into the menu, Maintenance. With inside the menu Maintenance, I can do a number of things to the menu. We saw that the item store location is no longer necessary because we have that as a detail grid with inside the CDJ items table. So I removed it. Now the other thing we'd like to do is we'd like to add a menu item. It is a basic program, and it is the program that is found in our CD Jazz prog directory. We'll give it a nice description. We'll choose one of the image IDs. So we're done. Let's save it. Close this form, do a refresh, and we see that the employee maintenance has appeared. If I click it, then I have my character application, my BBX program. If I choose the other menu item, then I have my new graphic form, and the item store has been removed.